Did you sense much anxiousness in the crowds you were with?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Because it all goes hand in glove there. And I mean, there was this old joke that I used to tell sometime. You know, you go up to somebody, maybe it was a young lady that was a part of our ministry. How are you feeling today? Well, I'm stressed. Okay, why are you stressed? Well, I've got an accounting exam this weekend or this week. Okay, well, so, I understand that's hard. Well, really talk more about that. Why are you stressed? Well, if I don't pass this, then I don't get into the business school. And if I don't get into the business school, then I'm not going to get that degree. And if I don't get that degree, then I'm not going to get a good job. And if I don't get a good job, then I'm not going to be able to live in that nice apartment complex. And if I don't live in that nice apartment complex, I'm not going to meet the right guy. And if I don't meet the right guy, then I'm going to get a lot of cat.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Disciple Dilemma. Let's talk about leadership today. Let's talk about an edge in leadership because there's a book called The Edge, How to Stand Out by Showing You're All In. Adam Tarnow joins us. Adam is not only a podcaster, but he's been a pastor. He's also been in the business world, so he's got a lot of experience in leadership. And he's got some ideas that he wants to share with us about how discipleship and leadership fit together. What does it mean to be a leader? How do leaders help disciples? How do leaders help their employees? This will be a great conversation. Thanks for joining us. Well, Adam Tarnow, I am so grateful that you joined us on the Disciple Dilemma, even though we can't have Raymond with us to talk today about your role in Christians and leadership and the community of Christ.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much, Dennis.
And I really want to just take this moment to say, I get so sick and tired of that freaking orange Auburn Tiger that's on the screen all the time, only to find that a week later I get stuck with a guy from Tennessee, and now I've got a Clemson guy on the screen.
Do.
And this is just like totally unfair, but I guess it's grace, huh?
I know. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we still like Dabo a lot in Birmingham. I just want to say that to you.
He's very likable. I don't know. Well, I think he's still likable. There's some naysayers out there, but by and large, he's a great guy. And if nothing else, he's fun to listen to. Those post-game press conferences are wild. And
they are wild.
And
it's just hard to keep your stock value up no matter who you are in the football world, isn't it?
That is well said. That is very well said. Yeah. And they obviously, they were about you won a couple national championships. There's only one other place to go, and that's down or have some naysayers come after you. But yes, they have. I am very grateful. As I went back there a couple of weeks ago, actually, to talk about the book was invited to speak to a group of marketing students there through the business school. And I mean, just the way the campus has changed since I was there 26 years ago, it's just amazing what winning football will do for the entire city. And I know my friends down in College Station are feeling the same way when they had the Heisman Trophy winner down there. And then even in Baylor, when they had a Heisman Trophy winner a few years ago. It's just amazing what some national notoriety will do for the entire university, which is pretty cool.
I want to ask you the question, when you're talking, do you notice a difference in the worldview of the students today versus the worldview when you were there?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I could not believe how busy the students were and how much pressure they were feeling. And so what that did to their worldview from my, just one man's perspective was a very distracted view, and really just kind of myopically focused on what is in front of them today, the next class, the next resume thing, because they were so concerned about what was their resume going to look like when they left. And so I didn't find a lot of students just in the ones that I was running around with that were having these big theological debates or even doubting the existence of God. Maybe some conversations we had back in the 90s in college where the Campus Crusade staff would have a lot of those existence of God conversations. I had very few of those. It was really strange. It was really, could I get somebody to even think about what else is going on, maybe under the hood, so to speak, what's going on in their heart, what is going on, do they think about spiritual things, can they show up to our on-campus meeting? So those were some of the biggest differences. I just felt like the pressure and the busyness, which led just to them being distracted, were some of the things that I saw.
Did you sense much anxiousness in the crowds you were with?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because it all goes hand in glove there. And I mean, there was this old joke that I used to tell sometime, you go up to somebody, maybe it was a young lady that was a part of our ministry. How are you feeling today? Well, I'm stressed. Okay, why are you stressed? Well, I've got an accounting exam this weekend or this week. Okay, well, So, I understand that's hard. Well, really talk more about that. Why are you stressed? Well, if I don't pass this, then I don't get into the business school. And if I don't get into the business school, then I'm not going to get that degree. And if I don't get that degree, then I'm not going to get a good job. And if I don't get a good job, then I'm not going to be able to live in that nice apartment complex. And if I don't live in that nice apartment complex, I'm not going to meet the right guy. And if I don't meet the right guy, then I'm going to get a lot of cats. And I'm going to be, this cat woman that wears Mickey Mouse sweatshirts all the
Like
time.
dominoes, right?
Yeah. And so it just was this freak out over a small accounting exam. It wasn't just the accounting exam. It was the rest of my life.
Jonathan Haidt, who's an atheistic psychiatrist, he's Jewish by religious background, wrote The Happiness Hypothesis, is talking about today's college student and largely today's high school student lives in a world of significant anxiousness and is living essentially gridlocked because of the anxiousness that's going on. So I guess that becomes almost a pivot point for us to talk about Adam Tarnow and David Morrison writing some book called The Edge. How about giving us a conversation about leadership and what this book is going to do to help organizations deal with people who are anxious?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you, giving me an opportunity to talk about that. What I can do now. So the book came out in September of 22. I will say, like, if David were on here with me, the reaction has been encouraging, and also it's been different than we expected. And so thought, and so, we wrote the book called The Edge, How to Stand Out by Showing You're All In. And then another like parenthetical subtitle there was a book for emerging leaders and those who lead them. And so in some ways you make a mistake because you just said right there on the cover, we wrote the book to two groups of people, which maybe is, now I'm learning, not a great thing to do, right? To write it to two groups of people, because you just cut your target market in half. And so we thought, like we always, as we were writing it, had this suspicion of just going, I wonder which group is going to like this more. Is it the emerging leader or is it those who lead them? And what I can tell you now is the feedback that we have been getting over the last 6 or 7 months is it's those who lead them. And so what this book appears to be helping with right now is that seasoned leader out in the marketplace that maybe does have the younger generation that's showing up. They see some things in them that they need to be coached on, right? The younger generation needs some coaching on leadership. And this book is giving them some language to use and some frameworks to use to engage in those conversations. So it's helping the seasoned leader coach the younger leaders on their team. And so we're thrilled by that.
So that's a good intro for the book. Now, if you were in an elevator for 30 seconds and I go like, okay, well, give me a couple of tools inside the book that'll get me fascinated with this to buy it, what would kind of that elevator ride sound like?
Yeah, well, I guess if you're the seasoned leader or if you're the young leader, if you're the young leader, like the one just starting their career, I would probably go, hey, guess what? I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing called employee engagement, but it kind of measures the emotional commitment of where the workforce is in America right now. It's really, really low. And so what that means is the bar has never been lower for you to stand out. Okay. So here's a little cheat sheet. Here's 4 things you have to do. It's only 4. It's an acronym. You can remember it. EDGE: energy, diligence, growth, endurance. If you can just show up every day and bring some positive energy with you, focus on your job, be diligent to do your job well, keep that growth mindset for yourself and for the organization. You want to see the organization grow, and then start to develop endurance with the inevitable ups and downs. I think your career is going to be moving in the right direction, right? So that's what I would say if I was in that elevator ride with the young leader.
So for those of us who have a little more ear hair going on in our lives these days, does that mean this is a translator guide for Gen Z?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think Gen Z is resonating with it. I was just in a room with a bunch of Gen Zers last week, and it was a little intimidating and nerve-wracking to ask them, what did you think? Okay. And I got exactly the feedback that I would have expected. They loved all the concepts. They loved the framework. They loved how easy it was to read, how fast it was to read. That we all expected. And yeah, your jokes were a little corny. And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and you're not. And so of course they probably, some of them came across as some dad jokes and, our Seinfeld references that to all the Gen Xers and the boomers, we all get those, that were in the book. Maybe they didn't get those as much or things like that. So yeah, by and large, it seems to be resonating with them when they read it, which again, we are very encouraged that if the boss buys the book for their team, that kind of puts the team in a tough decision or a tough spot, because now they have to read a book. And what we like hearing is when they pick it up and they read it, they're like, oh, that was kind of fun. that was an easy read, or it was simple. And I got a lot out of that. And so if the emerging leader, the younger leader, maybe they're not out there, they don't feel like it's a felt need right now, but if somebody gives them that book and they read it and they're pleasantly surprised and learn something from it, that's been really encouraging to hear.
If I remember your rap sheet correctly, you've got about 600 tours behind the podium, kind of talking about stuff, life, things, and particularly leadership. I'm wondering how the Christian world needs to hear this. What would you either alter, tweak, or hold precisely the same as you lay this book out in front of, let's say, elders, deacons, small group leaders, ministry people, and staff folks in churches and Christian and parachurch communities? How would this book help them?
Well, as we were alluding to when you prayed for us, that we know that the resurrection has happened and it's going to happen for us. We know our eternity is secure. We know God wins in the end. That gives us a lot of motivation for optimism and energy, for endurance. Obviously, everything that we see in Scripture that talks about the building of character and being able to persevere through faith. So I think somebody in the church, as they read this, they would recognize, oh, those are a lot of Scripture-informed principles, or principles that line up with God's word. I mean, David and I didn't write this to be an explicitly Christian book. We wanted to go after what's that values-based audience, to have a wider reach. So I don't think anybody reading it would be surprised to hear, or it would be very clear that we both take our faith very serious. But so I think that, again, the frameworks would work there. I think the Christian leader would also be very encouraged, because candidly, Dennis, a lot of this stuff I learned through the church.
If you think about leadership challenges in the Christian community today, and we sort of, let's, for the sake of conversation, segment it into the mega churches and then the mids and the smalls, what's a guy like you thinking about as a leadership coach when you look at the bigs, the mids, and the smalls? What are sort of the differentiators that leaders probably are facing, and they may or may not know it?
I became a Christian in 1996, maybe right dead smack in what may end up being the golden age of like the mega church in America. And so being very vocal about my faith in the workplace in the southeastern part of the United States was not considered really to be taboo at all. And I think over the last 25 years, that's changed, where now the megachurch leader may be thinking about that, or really any church leader may be thinking about that a little bit more, of where the workplace is and how do you incorporate those two things. I think that one is huge and got to be a real significant challenge. The other thing that I would say, maybe, and I'm not pointing any fingers. This is a half-baked idea. Let me say that. So I reserve the right to change this maybe one day. But when I was in the room with some of the Gen Zers last week, and I was again asking them for some of their feedback on the book, one of the comments I got was surprising and not surprising, where a gentleman basically just said, "What I really liked about the book was you helped me as a person. And then if I'm getting better as a person, or developing as a leader or a professional, that's going to have then a positive impact on the organization. So you came at this helping me, and then if I'm helped, I'm going to help the organization. You didn't come at this going, hey, help the organization by getting better." And so the starting with the person and where the person is, and just saying, my intent is just to help you, regardless if you're here forever or if you go on somewhere else one day. I think that's a little bit of a change from when I graduated, where it was, we were all, I wouldn't say we were all company men and women when we graduated, but there was a little bit more. It wasn't so much of like, well, what's in this for me right now? Am I getting better? And then am I going to give you my best? And I think that's where things are changing a little bit too, whereas we're trying to develop young leaders, we need to be very clear with our intent that we want to help you. Like, this is you as a person, your personal development.
One of the big scarce commodities in society today, so they say, as you listen to people like Pew and Barna, even folks like Jonathan Haidt, we just mentioned a minute ago, is the tremendous scarcity of time and the lack of relationship. It's very transactional in everything that we do. How do you think about concepts like time and relationship and the leadership constructs that you've written about?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it's going to be nearly impossible to do it really well if we don't give people time, if we don't sit down and talk with them and see them. Do you like to? Yeah, that probably is one of the best ways to say that, is to, like, the empathy side, where I really want to get to know you, your perspective. What do you want out of life? Where do you want your career to go? Nobody asked me if I ever wanted to be a partner. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be promoted. Nobody asked me if I ever wanted to be a leader. They were just watching my technical acumen and giving me promotions and more responsibility. There was just this assumption, this is what you want. And so we're helping you get what you want. You want to be on this fast track. And if there's some really cool things that I think came out of the whole quiet quitting conversation over the last 2 years and the Great Resignation and all that, is just recognizing, and really Gallup did a good job of, I think, bringing this to the forefront of the conversation before the pandemic. Excuse me, in their book, It's the Manager, that came out in 2019, that people are thinking about their relationship with work differently now. And so just because, Dennis, you and I were very career-minded maybe when we started our careers, and we thought about promotions and we wanted to be a leader one day, not everybody's there. Not everybody wants to do that. And so that's not right or wrong. It's just different. And so I think that customized approach to professional development for people is going to have to be the norm now. It's hard to do a lot of cookie cutter things. We first have to start with the person. Is this what you want? Do you want to get better? And so that's good to know, but it's just not very efficient.
I just finished an article on LinkedIn recently where I talked about the Deloitte 2022 survey on Gen Z, which if you want to find that, we'll put it up on the screen here so everybody can see that as well. The conversation really talked about the idea that the Gen Z is far less compensation oriented and far more relationship oriented, far more interested in being able to explore, travel, and understand than they are trying to commit themselves to a 60-hour work week. And then
Right.
Lastly, I found it very interesting that the conversations tended to run toward the idea that what we're looking for is the ability to be known and understood, and far less to simply be a commodity or widget. In other words, when you're talking to me about work, I want to understand the why I'm doing it. What's the purpose, the meaning underneath this, as much as it is simply you telling me the what or the how on the task.
Yeah. I mean, I was just in a room here this morning with a group of leaders that were reminding themselves of that and the need to go back and communicate the why to people, which, obviously with Sinek's TED Talk and his book and the Start With Why, that's been a very popular concept in leadership circles, at least over the last, 10 years, maybe 8 years since that TED Talk kind of took off. But I think for the more seasoned leader, what we need to remember with that is that can be an annoying conversation sometimes. If you've got a young person that just showed up, that they just keep asking why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? That's not efficient, right? That takes time, and it can seem like, Stan, why are you even asking, right? What does it matter? But I think you're exactly right. There's just a level of curiosity that's there, and if we just assume positive intent with that they're doing that not to be annoying, they're doing that because they like to connect the dots and they like to see the bigger picture. That helps me be a little bit more sympathetic towards, some of those why questions, and I think can help the leader out there just to remember they're not doing this to annoy me. This helps them connect their motivation.
Folks, we're talking with Adam Tarnow. This is a great rap sheet when you think about what Adam has done and where he's going. He's the author of the book, The Edge. You'll see the picture of the edge up on the screen as we talk now. When we come back, we want to take a look at this guy who's had time in ministry, time in business. This guy's been in the accounting world. He's been in the church world, and now he's in the leadership coaching world. And so he's going to give us 30-second answers to all the really big questions in life. When we get back, stay with us. Folks, welcome back. We've got Adam Tarnow, the author of The Edge, and Adam is talking with us about his experience both in the church as well as in the business community, as well as now being a leadership coach. Adam, I was setting this up a few minutes ago as a conversation. We were talking about employees. I took over a company a couple of years ago, number 2 manufacturer of fireplaces. And so my first few days, the company was in crisis. I thought, I'm going to do the undercover boss thing. I'm going to wander out on the floor. Nobody's going to know who I am. I'm going to wander around and just kind of hang out with folks and drive some rivets and watch some welding machines work and see how people do stuff.
That
And I
sounds
get
fun.
out there. Well, it was fun. It's great fun. And so here's one stat that'll make you, I think, as a guy in the financial world, really kind of grab your heart. We had this one factory I was in had 600 people in it. Turnover was 365% per year.
Oh gosh.
So that's 1,800 people we got to hire
Yeah.
in a year to keep 600 people on the floor, right? So I get out on the floor and I'm wandering around. I'm like, hey, what do you do? Well, I drive with, rivets. I screw this widget on here. Well, what is this thing? Man, I don't even know. Like, what does it do? Well, it's just a big old box and it's got logs in it, but I guess it's, it looks like it's a fireplace. I guess is what it is. I guess we're doing fireplaces. And I said, well, has anybody ever, told you how important it is that we drive the rivets? No, dude. Why are you asking all these questions? Like, come on, back off. Leave me alone. I said, well, I'm just really curious. Why do we have to put the rivet here? Why do we have to do this or that? Right. So the sense of it was, and here's the trick. I was talking to the supervisor. So the sense of it was, I got the guy who's leading a team of 8, 10, 12. They don't have any idea why they're there. They have no clue why they're there. The why just was completely missing, right? My question, Adam, is when we look at the business world, what does that mean for leadership? When you think about the coaching consulting you're doing, what does that mean for leadership? We'll twist to the church in a minute, but what does that mean in the business world to you?
Yeah, like what does that mean when that type of situation arises where a middle manager doesn't know how to answer some of those basic questions? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there's a breakdown in communication somewhere. Somebody hasn't watched the TED Talk Start With Why that we were just referencing before the break, and just reminding people of what goes on with this. What I like to think of with this. So again, let's go back to like an employee engagement. And if you go Google for articles on how to improve employee engagement right now, a lot of them are going to be focused on that frontline manager or the middle managers or senior leaders going, hey, senior leader, the reason the workforce isn't engaged is it's your fault. You're not caring for them. There's other things you need to do. That's right. That's good. That certainly is part of it. I just don't think it's the whole story. If we really think about engagement, I think it's a mixture of two primary components. And that is, yes, the external motivation. So what is the manager and the boss doing to create a tone and a culture to let the people know? External appreciation is what I meant to say. What are they doing to appreciate people? And then there's the internal motivation that everybody's got to bring. I'm going to quote Dabo Sweeney at the end of one game. He talked about.
How about Nick Saban? Do you want to quote Nick Saban?
No, I don't. And so Dabo at the end, it was this rainy game at the where they had just barely held on to beat Notre Dame on a Saturday night in Death Valley. And he just, ESPN puts the microphone in his face and just says, what you tell him at halftime kind of thing. And he basically just looked at them and just, as he was recounting the conversation going, we give you great practice facilities. We give you great clothes. We give you food to eat. We give you a place to sleep. We give you cool uniforms, but I can't give you guts. It's BYOG, bring your own guts. Right. And literally like the next week, T-shirts are being made around Clemson, billboards with BYOG. I'd even heard the rumor that he trademarked that, like, oh, that was pretty good, that BYOG. But there's something about that BYOG that I think is so important for engagement as well, which is, yes, external appreciation is helpful, but internal motivation has to be a part of engagement. And that's a part that a leader or a manager can't quite understand or can't quite control.
Well, I think you're nailing exactly what I want to get into as we begin to swing it toward the church, which is we have a culture that says, go to work, clock in, do whatever your muscle memory taught you to do yesterday, even though you have no idea why you're there. Listen to the PowerPoint presentations by the managers as they come through and throw stuff up on the screen, right? You listen to the safety briefing, whatever. You do the quality pitch, whatever. Go back to work, get your lunch, do a few more rivets, and you go home, versus what does a culture look like that says you have meaning, purpose, dignity, and you are crucial to the success of what's coming down this line, whether this line's a manufacturing line or a church line, which brings me, Adam, to the point where we want to get from you the wisdom that will solve all the problems that we're trying to solve today. And that's this. If we look at the community of Christians today, the statistics don't look good. Something's just not right, right? For example, if we take a look at the major research house surveys on the millennials, so we think about, ish 45 and downs, walking out rate on growing up in the church and now leaving the church behind, 60%. 60% are leaving, and after they have kids, they aren't coming back. If we look at the people who remain in the pews, who stuck around, 90% of them say, look, I'm not equipped to talk about the reason for the hope that's in me. That's Adam's job. That's the TED Talk guy. That's the pastor. That's the apologist's job. Another 35% say, I'm not even sure Jesus is the only way. And then this statistic's kind of interesting. 80% of the people in the pews, 8 out of 10 people sitting in the pews today will tell you, in the mainline Protestant and the evangelical Protestant churches, that's an amazing number to me, 80% are going to say, I don't have fellowship, I don't have prayer, I don't have Bible study, I attend church 1.7 times a month. That's my discipleship. So, as a leadership coach who has all the answers, my question to you is, what do we do with the employees on the manufacturing line and the Christians in those pews? Where's the problem, leaders, and what should leaders do about that? So solve our problem for us, Adam.
There we go. I'll throw one quick word out there, because I like the word you use, scrimmage. Like, we're just going to kind of debate this. I know you're being kind, going, oh, Adam's going to solve all this, and we know that's not going to happen, right? So this is us having debate and dialogue over this. One word pops into my mind, and that is the word boredom. They're bored, right? So they're bored. People are bored. And if you really think about it, I got fascinated with boredom when I was on staff at a church over at Watermark. And it was like, why are certain communicators, when I listen to them in a one-to-many setting, why do some of them hold my attention for the full 45 minutes? And why do some of them feel like I'd rather be anywhere else in the world than listening to them for the next 45 minutes? So what is the difference? And it's not charisma, right? And it's not, as I really started to look at it, I was like, I think there are some basic causes of boredom that we as leaders now, inside the church, outside the church, this is one of the hidden enemies we are facing with this overall thing called engagement, either engagement at church or engagement at work, is that people are so easily bored nowadays. And so what are we doing? As I was just sitting there just trying to think about it, and this is so not empirical research. This was just my own personal research of just going through what are some of the things that cause boredom in my own life. I come up with a list of, and I'll try to rattle off as many of these as I can. It was about 4 or 5 things, but it was irrelevance. So if I don't know how what you're saying or what you're doing is going to have a direct impact on my life, it's very hard for me to pay attention to. If something's too complex, if you're going to require my brain to think too much, there's a certain level of challenge that I do want to listen to, but if you cross a line and it becomes too challenging, like think the difference between the Monday morning New York Times crossword puzzle versus the Sunday morning one, wildly different, right? One is way easier. I like the Monday one. It keeps me challenged. The Sunday, I don't even look at it because it's too challenging. I get bored with it. There is apathy, anything that lacks passion, emotion, things like that, then that's going to be pretty boring for people. Aimlessness. I don't even know where you're going. Like, what are you even talking about right now? That can be very, very boring. And then just generally this idea of predictability. So if every time you get up, you say the same thing and you inflect the same way, and it's just everything we do here on a Sunday, it's so predictable. Then I think all of those things at different times can cause a lot of boredom.
Great counsel. I'm going to ask you first to talk to us about how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. AdamTarnow.com, TARNOW, AdamTarnow.com. You can go out there and we can, all kinds of different things that we can do there. Sign up for emails. We can connect on LinkedIn. That's the one social media platform that I'm really on. The book is out there on Amazon. So Amazon, or really any of the online retailers, you can get it there. The Edge, How to Stand Out by Showing You're All In.
And you're available to speak or to consult with businesses and organizations if they want to talk about leadership, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, lots of different things that I'll do where I've got some, like 18 hours of training that goes through this basic leadership framework designed for the current people manager with all kinds of different topics, everything from communication to conflict resolution to coaching to culture building, all that kind of stuff. So just your general leadership development program, and then obviously a lot of live teaching and things that we do on the edge for that emerging leader all the concepts from the book. We've got some live teaching that we do for that as well.
Great conversation. This stuff's necessary for us, both inside the corporate walls and inside the church walls. So I hope all of you will take a look. You're seeing the book, you're seeing the website as we talk about all this. Adam, you get the round out.
Maybe the most profound thing I've ever heard on leadership that I'll go ahead and say is it changed my life. Changed my life was one of the best definitions of leadership I ever heard that really is what I'm out there trying to help people understand. And it's this, is that leadership at its core is about making the choice to take initiative for the benefit of others. If we can, it is a choice that we make, even if we have title or authority, we still have to make that choice. And so we choose to be a person who's going to take initiative for the benefit of others. And so you can read all the leadership books, and I hope you read The Edge along with all the other ones that are out there. But in the end, if you could just wake up every day and drive into work or church or when you're driving home and just say, Lord, what can I do today to take initiative for the benefit of the people that I'm around? I'm telling you, that will transform your leadership journey and get you moving in the right direction. So I'll leave everybody with that. My favorite definition of leadership, choosing to take initiative for the benefit of others.
Adam Tarnow, thank you for being with us today on the Disciple Dilemma.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dennis.
As you listen to these podcasts like we've had today with Adam Tarnow on leadership and his book, The Edge, help us get the word out. Discipleship's been hacked. We need to get back to the biblical model Jesus has given to us. You can find more information about us on www.thediscipledilemma.com. We're also on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the RSS podcast feeds. Please take a look, take a listen, follow us, like us. As always, folks, thanks for listening.